Hi Pilgrims, we're back with yet another video from the series that I did with Jeremiah from Camino Guide and Kate from Wanderlusting Lawyer. So we hope that you've really been enjoying the series of videos. And today we're going to be talking all about Camino families. And I think this is a really cool topic. There's so much to say on this. There are some pilgrims who choose to walk with others and they find connection and friendship and form Camino families. Others choose to walk more alone. And I think we had a really great conversation around this. If you watch the video, you'll see that I kind of go off on a long tangent. So clearly I have a lot to say on this subject. I think I could have kept talking for another hour or so. And to that note, I might actually make an additional video myself and just share a little bit more on the topic. But in the meantime, please tune in to watch myself, Jeremiah from Camino Guide, and Kate talk all about Camino families in this next segment of our Camino conversation. And just as a reminder, videos from this series are being posted Mondays over in Jeremiah's channel, Camino Guide, Wednesdays here at Nadine Walks, and Saturday over on Kate's channel, Wanderlusting Lawyer. So enjoy the conversation.
Relationships is one where, if you're not walking alone, if you're not having alone time, then you're not really on pilgrimage. Or, if you're not connecting with the international community, then you're not really getting the Camino or something. And that's just hogwash. Like, there's so many ways that this is a gift to people.
So is it hard when you're traveling and you're responsible for a group like that to make like a Camino family independent of that group? Because I think Camino families is something that is important to a lot of people, and that people who haven't gone the Camino here talked about, and it's really this concept, right, of finding one group or different groups or one person or what, just people that you have that bond, and you walk together, sometimes you talk together, and it's really that vibe. I think you talk to so many different people on the Camino, but the Camino family are really those people that for one reason or another, it fits, right? You have the same walking style. You really enjoy each other's company. So is that tough when you are leading a group like you are, to kind of feel like you have the time and the energy and the ability to talk to the other pilgrims?
I would say it is a completely different experience, not without family, but the family's different, because when you're walking in these big groups, somebody who's not a part of your group finds it really hard to break in, right? So you can imagine if my group has 7 people sitting at the bar when you end for the day, the likelihood that you're going to go sit at our table is low. If there's one person, you might go sit down at the table with them. That's kind of a common experience when we're on the way, that we just go make friends with people that we've never, you sit down and with strangers. People don't do that when we have the group like that. And so sometimes it's hard to build the bonds in that way. And it's also the fact that when a group, we're walking slower than most pilgrims. So we only see them for like 2 days at a time, and then they walk on. But the difference is that we bring our Camino family with us. So a group of 31, which I've got going in May, some of them are already close friends going. Some of them don't know anybody, but will build those close friendships. And one of the things that's really unique about doing a group like that is then you bring all of those Camino friendships home with you in a way that you don't when you walk on your own, right? So like, I'm still messaging back and forth with pilgrims that I hung out with this summer. I went to make this trip to Belgium to visit some of them last November. So those friendships are really precious to me. In fact, I probably have messaged at least 4 or 5 of those pilgrims this week about different things, just casually catching up and stuff. So they're real friends now around the world, the same experience that some of you have had, but it's different when you then bring these pilgrims home with you. And so these are people that I see day after day after day, and living real life with back home. So it's pretty cool that way.
What about you, Nadine? I got the sense when I read your blog that it seems like you walk, like you're a very efficient walker. You can walk pretty good distances every day. Like, have you found on all your Caminos, are you more into making a Camino family, or do you more appreciate kind of the relationship that you make for that day, and then you meet new people the next day? What's your style when it comes to the whole interaction on the Camino?
Yeah, good question, Kate. So I feel like I'm a very independent Camino walker. I love the connections that I make with other pilgrims. Like, that's such a special part of the experience of walking a Camino. And that's different than other long distance walking that I've done on other trails. So I really love the connection. But I think ever since my first Camino too, I kind of set out knowing that I was doing this for myself. And that's not to say that I didn't make these connections that I do consider a Camino family, but I think my Camino family connections tend to be a little different from the here's my person, here are a couple people, here's my little group, and I'm going to stick with them and we're going to move down the trail together. For me, it's been more like I connect with someone and we might stick together for a couple days, or I might, it just kind of happens, right, that we're at the same pace and we happen to stay in the same places, and then, we're close then, but my plan was to do something else, or I'm feeling like I want to walk a big day, or they were going to take that alternate route. And so I think also to be like almost attracted to people who are also doing their own thing. And so I found that, like, and at various points on my Caminos, I do find these beautiful connections, but they've always tend to be more short-lived. It's interesting though, on my very first Camino, I met on my first day walking down to Roncesvalles, I met a girl from San Francisco, and we had the same pack and we had the same shoes. And so we just started talking, and her name was Mira, and she ended in Burgos. So she was only walking, the first 11 or 12 days. And we just kind of hit it off and really connected. And so each of us, though, we had a very different walking pace. So we never walked together, like on the actual walking, during the day stage, but we kind of would plan where we were going to stay in the evenings. And so I've always considered her like almost like my Camino sister, right? But so that's Camino family, right? Like that definitely is, but that we didn't have a big group. It was just kind of the two of us. And then again, like I've already described, on other Caminos, there were maybe 3 or 4 of us that came together, and it felt really magical because we just, how it is, right? You just meet someone, you connect with them, and the kind of like Camino brings you together. But I've never really stayed with a group for so long, because I think for me, and that's not to say it won't happen either. Like it's not like I'm heading into my Camino saying I'm doing my own thing and I'm not gonna, I'm very open to that possibility. But I think right now anyway, in these last few years, I think my mindset very much is, I'm kind of there to give myself the time and experience that whatever I need to have and whatever I want to have. And I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, and then we can bring it back. But this is something that's really struck me a lot. Like, I think in my day-to-day life anyway, and I think for a lot of us, we have all these different roles that we play, right? We're a partner to someone, maybe we're a son, a daughter, a father, a mother, we're a friend. In our jobs, we have roles. I work in a school and I do counseling work, and I'm really on a lot for other people, which is really important to me. But I have found the Camino, for myself especially, has been a time where I ask myself what I need. And that was actually a really big revelation, I guess, when I first walked my first Camino. I realized I don't often kind of ask myself what I need and then give it to myself. And that was sort of a lesson that I was really kind of learning and practicing, and still do when I'm on the Camino. And I think for me, some of that all kind of ties in too about the connections that I make, and also my, if I am going to kind of walk with someone and really kind of have an experience with someone, I think that's got to be just the right fit. And sometimes when I am on the Camino, it's such a personal time, and I enjoy so much the kind of deeper introspection that I get, and just that quiet and peace and time to myself, that it more often than not, I think, can be overall a kind of more solo experience, even though the connection is there, right? Like I said already, it's why I'm drawn to the Camino, the ability to make those connections. So that was my extremely long-winded answer.
Well, Nadine, are you naturally an introvert or naturally an extrovert, Nadine?
I'm an introvert for sure. Yeah.
And I'm an extrovert. I live that out on the Camino too. Like, that's how I roll. Yeah. How about you, Kate? Have you had some good Camino family?
Yeah, and I think I'm like a extroverted introvert. Like I love the connection that happens, but I also really enjoy having some quiet time, or like I sometimes like to listen to some music, just depending on the vibe. And I think it's so important for people, especially who haven't taken a Camino yet, to hear about these different experiences, because sometimes people say, I'm going alone. I don't want to feel lonely. And then other people say, I'm going alone and I would like to really talk to nobody. Is that also a possibility? I need this for me. And you can have all those experiences. Like, so I've done both of them, started off alone, and always found within a day like multiple periods of time where I could just be walking alone. And sometimes I wouldn't even see a pilgrim in front of me or behind me for hours, like until I got to a rest stop or something like that. Or like there might be little detours, like the one to Samos that I loved in Galicia, where it's just a lot quieter. You get more of that alone time. But yeah, so I found myself really to enjoy having periods of time when I was walking with somebody else, and then periods of time where I was walking alone. But I loved the social aspect of the albergues at night. And I think that's something I learned on this Camino Aragonés, which, especially during COVID times, it was a super sleepy Camino, at least when I was walking. Even in July, there was only a group of, I think, Nadine, I remember you said your group of people on the same schedule was like maybe 13, 14
Yep.
people. We
Yeah.
were like 6 or 7. It was small. And I probably walked 90 to 95% of the time alone. And that was a little too much alone time for me. Like, I love meeting people. I love asking questions. I'm an attorney for a reason. Like, I love sharing information and getting to know other people. So, but I did find I met kind of 2 separate Camino families on my Camino Frances. There was a father and son from France that I walked with or like walked on and off with and always hung out with at night for the first like 7 days or something. They broke off at Logroño, as you mentioned. The French really do it in these stages depending on their vacations, unless they're retired age usually. And then I met these 2 cousins from California, and they were like my sisters. Like, it was an immediate connection, immediate bond. We were just like talking about our lives so in depth from like the first hour on. And I really vibed with them. And I loved their dynamic too, because they're like 10 years apart, totally different walking speeds. So I would usually walk with the one cousin, Addison. We would walk more quickly than Trish, but Trish was so happy on her own. And then Addison would find a place and like wait for Trish, and I'd say, okay, I'll see you guys later, because I wanted to keep walking. And we had this kind of events where like we would walk together for a few days, then lose to each other for a few days, and then we ended up finishing together. The last day we walked together the whole time. It took us like double the amount of time it's supposed to take to get to Santiago, because we were stopping, we were talking to everybody. We walked with a bottle of white wine. Like, we were so excited.
Nice.
So yeah, I'd say I think for me going forward, like if I'm not walking, for example, the Frances or maybe the Portuguese or the Primitivo, I would try to bring a friend or like a family member or something like that, because it was a little bit too much alone time for me. Not that I didn't mind like the thinking, but when it gets tough, like when you get as it like tired as I was and my feet, like I said, were killing me, those are the moments that having somebody there with you can really help lift your spirits. And you look around, you're like, whoa, we just walked for 2 hours and I didn't even realize it. So I did miss that. And like I said, I enjoy the social aspects of the albergues at night for sure. But that didn't stop me once every maybe like 6 or 7 days from renting a private room to get some good sleep, because there's some very loud snoring on the Camino.
Probably me. Nadine, you made the remark about that earlier, that I just want to go back to that too, about how often, I think especially on the forums where everybody's having these conversations and stuff, and people often prioritize their own experience with regard to relationships. I mean, they do that about everything on Camino, but relationships is one where, if you're not walking alone, if you're not having alone time, then you're not really on pilgrimage. Or, if you're not connecting with the international community, then you're not really getting the Camino or something. And that's just hogwash. Like there's so many ways that this is a gift to people that to say that one or the other. And I do think that, I mean, I when I teach spiritual disciplines in the academic setting, what I often tell people is that they should focus in on the disciplines, the spirituality that is the most life-giving and energizing to them. So like whatever your thing is that just makes you feel alive, then do that the most. But you still should eat your vegetables, you know, like you should still go and eat the part, like do the parts that are hard for you some of the time. You know, like I don't eat big piles of green beans, but I do eat some green beans, you know. And I think that being able to say, okay, I am going to do some of this because it will be good for me, but this is the thing that gives me life, and I'm going to focus my time there, and just know that that's who you are. So it's really cool.
And that just makes me think too. I mean, I really want to echo that as well, right? Like there's no one right way to walk a Camino. I think that comes through certainly, I think, in the things that we're sharing, that I see Kate on your channel and Jeremiah on yours. And I think it's one reason, at least and I think probably the two of you would agree too, that it's so cool to have the three of us come together and talk about this stuff, because I think we've got some similarities, but we also have some differences, right? And you know, why we're walking and how we're walking, and there isn't a right way to do it. And I love that. It's like, what fills you and lights you up? Eat your vegetables too, but like hone in on, like what feels good to you. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. Make sure to check out past videos if you haven't already from the series, and stay tuned for more.